Welcome everybody to the Empowered Performance Podcast. My name is Matthew Manos. Today's guest is Pat Damiano. Some would describe him as an unconventional strength coach, but I'll let him introduce himself. Pat, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so I'm Pat Damiano. I'm the kettlebell guy. Unconventional strength coach is probably a pretty good way to put it. Been training people my whole life and working out my entire life, and I'd say probably around 2020-ish, maybe a little before that, discovered some of the more unconventional training tools. And probably in 2021 is when they really started to kind of take off, and then just became my main source of training strictly because I like it. So been kind of just hitting hard ever since then, enjoying teaching people kettlebells, clubs, maces, sandbags, Bulgarian bags, and everything that I think is cool about them and just fun about fitness.
So how would you describe unconventional training to somebody who's never heard of it?
So there's like kind of two levels to it. Most people have heard of a kettlebell, so they at least like kind of know what that is. So I could say it's a lot of kettlebell work, and then the clubs, maces, and stuff like that is usually things people have never seen before in their life. So I tend to say it's a lot of just swinging around stuff and moving in a little bit more of a functional way. It's not your traditional strength training. It's going to emphasize a little bit more mobility, rotation. I don't really like the term like the way the body's supposed to move. I think that's kind of like a little bit of too
Mhm.
much of a blanket statement, but I'd say it gets the body to move in a slightly more harmonious way, a little bit more of a total body way, and a little bit more of a way that feels comfortable or feels right or natural. Once you do start to get the hang of the movements. But it's going to get you moving in different planes of motion. It's going to put a little bit more emphasis on mobility, rotation, muscular endurance, and not just focus on the strength and the muscle. And it's going to do a lot of that in with those pieces of equipment, multiple different pieces of equipment, and there's really no quote unquote right way to do it. I think that's something that unconventional training has brought to the fitness space is you can get a little bit creative and there's nothing that you have to do. There's no right way to use a piece of equipment. There's a wrong way, but within reason, there's no wrong way to use a piece of equipment. And yeah, it just allows for some exploration with the human body and also with the piece of equipment. There's multiple different ways the body can move, and there's multiple different ways that you can use a piece of equipment. So unconventional training, I think, has brought that to the fitness space of opening people's minds to that concept of different ways to move in general, different ways to move with a piece of equipment. There's no right way.
So it's interesting that you say that because when I first tried getting into the unconventional space, the main stuff that I would see is kind of RKC, which is probably everybody's start into kettlebells, especially as a trainer. And this isn't supposed to be criticism, maybe it is, but they were very strict about the ways that things were supposed to be done. And I find that, especially with your style, you have a lot of frontal plane. So for anybody listening who doesn't know what that is, it's kind of side to side movement and a lot of rotational movement, as opposed to just like forward, backward, up and down.
Hmm.
Um, and the nice thing about that too is they like to teach bracing and almost everything, which is good. It can keep you safe, but there's also times where you want to be able to contract and relax, which I find is more realistic to sports,
Hmm.
or just life in general. You're not very stiff all the time. And that was one of my favorite things about unconventional training when I got into the space was if I have a heavy bar on my back, that's more conventional stuff. I'm pretty stiff the whole time, but if I'm swinging a bell, you can't be stiff on the way up. You can't be stiff on the way down. You can be explosive on the way up, but then you have to relax, wait for gravity to do its thing, and then catch the bell. And in that moment, I think it teaches some athletic qualities that you might not get with traditional implements. If you want to speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, I think that is in regards to RKC. Yeah, I think they, like you said, they might be a little rigid. I totally understand. Everybody has their philosophy and something they believe in, especially if you're going to make it a business. You need a step-by-step program. If you're going to go to a certification, even as like a consumer, if you went into a certification, they're like, yeah, you can kind of do whatever you want with these kettlebells. It's like you want some sort of structure. Um, but yeah, I think that's what's fun about them and what has been a nice exploratory or I don't know what the right word would be, but it's just a way to, move the body a little differently. Is there is so much uh harmonious movement that is needed in them. And like you said, the contracting and the relaxing aspect of it really helps. It's necessary to do the movements properly, and it's something that's so new for people. So I think it's really beneficial to know how to do that because, like you said, you can't just walk around super stiff, squeezing your abs as tight as you can all day long,
Sure.
like you would with a super heavy back squat. You need to be able to kind of move a little bit more
Mhm.
fluidly. And I think that teaches people how to do that as opposed to just, being super tight and being super stiff all day long, swinging a club, swinging a mace, a kettlebell. It teaches you to move in that more contract, relaxed type of way and how that translates pretty well to most movements just throughout life in general, I think.
Mhm. Um, Kind of along those lines of the contract relax. I know you do some grappling, some jujitsu. I have started jujitsu about a year ago. I do a little bit of wrestling, a little bit of MMA, a little bit of Muay Thai. And anytime you're in sort of a grapple, there's a term used in judo called kazushi, which means off balancing. And it's not just about strength and force, which unconventional stuff will help you develop your strength and your ability to produce force. But Kazushi is also about if someone pushes, you pull, you take their strength with them.
Mm,
If you push, they pull, sort of. So it's kind of like a game. It's not just that tension all the time. And I found that, especially if I'm doing something like a club no, I don't have the choice to muscle it the entire way, especially when it's behind me and it's swinging side to side. And in that moment, I think that that's another way to develop an athletic quality that can actually translate a bit better than your very simple. I like barbells, I like machines, I like all those things, but it's sometimes too stable and too controlled, and that's not actually how sports are. So I find that's a good way to kind of develop that skill of knowing when to relax, knowing when to go with the weight, and then also when to kind of accelerate out of that swing, which I found has actually helped me a little bit. If someone starts to throw, I let them throw me, and then I continue their throw,
mm.
and I can get a takedown, for example.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. And that's exactly like you said, especially in judo, jujitsu, and a lot of martial arts. There's going to be a lot of that ebb and flow that these implements can physically teach you about, but also mentally teach you how to control something like that.
Mhm. Um, so I wanted to talk about conventional versus unconventional a little bit because
Hmm.
you're seeing a big attack from the conventional space on the unconventional space, saying that kettlebells aren't heavy enough, or they're not optimal for hypertrophy, or they're not the best at any one thing. And I've seen you kind of do something that may be a little bit different that you see in the unconventional space. You'll agree that it may not be the best for any one tool, but it's the Michael Jordan. You've used this analogy
Hmm.
before. The kettlebell is the Michael Jordan of implements. Um, can you speak to that a little bit? Because I DM'd you once about this, and you gave me a response that helped me a lot. I'll share that after you share
Hmm.
your bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's everything that the conventional or bodybuilding space or whatever they say. Like, I agree with everything they say. Like, I love kettlebells and what they do, but I also am not blind to the facts that it's really easy to put 400 pounds on a barbell, and that's just not happening with a kettlebell. Like, I
Hmm.
completely understand all of that, and I'll never argue with any of them. And I say all the time, like, if you want to gain as much muscle as possible, don't use these things. The my rebuttal is always the fact that like most people aren't only looking for that one thing. They're looking for a little bit of everything. They want to be strong, muscular, mobile, athletic, powerful, and so on and so forth. They want to do a little bit of everything. And when I say they, I mean the average person, right? Like that's who I market towards. That's
Sure.
who I am for as a trainer, is for the everyday person who's going to work out 3 to 4 times a week for 45 or so minutes. I'm not looking like the person who wants to increase their bench press from 300 to 305. Like that's not the person I'm going after, which is fine. Like they have their influencers and coaches that they can use. Like my information is for the everyday person. The everyday person wants to just lose a little bit of weight, feel a little bit better, gain a little bit of muscle, uh, be able to tie their shoes a little bit more comfortably, play with their kids a little bit more, and so on. And I personally do believe that kettlebells and the way you train with them are the best route for that. Like I said, the Michael Jordan, it's not at the top of any list, but they're pretty damn good at everything. So, yeah, I mean, every time traditional lifter or bodybuilder, whatever, is like kettlebells aren't good for X, Y, and Z. I'm like, you're right. The people looking to do that aren't the people I'm talking to.
So I agree with you, and that's kind of what you said in the DMs that helped me to kind of reshape my thinking because I come from a sports performance background where you're supposed to be optimal with every single physical quality that you're trying to attack. So you got to do the best thing to develop power, the best thing to develop strength, the best thing for conditioning. And kettlebells are great at developing all of those qualities, but you might argue that, you know, if you're to do this, it could be better. If you could do that, it could be better. but not everybody has access to a high quality gym with all the different machines and all the different equipment all at once. And the kettlebell, you would probably say as long as you have two or three and varying weights, you can get a pretty complete workout experience. The kettlebell can be
100%.
used for mobility, it can be used for power, it can be used for strength, it can be used for stability, it can be used for conditioning. Um, and I think you're one of the greats at creating complexes, which I want to talk to you about later. But complexes and circuits and really short workouts where someone can attack a lot of qualities in a short amount of time. And that's actually the main reason why I got into it is because um, I just moved into my house with my wife, and in that period, and also when we just got a puppy, between work and everything, I just felt so busy that it felt really hard to dedicate 60 to 90 minutes to do the traditional stuff. Where I was like very low on energy, and we're having a kid at the end of the year too, so
Oh,
this might
nice.
cycle
Congrats.
back in. But kettlebells for me were a great option to keep those short workouts where you get a lot done in a little bit of time. So that's one of the things that you talk about is you said 3 or 4 45-minute workouts a week. You don't have to go to the gym 2 hours every single day to get a great workout at kettlebell, and a little bit of creativity is a great way to do that.
Yeah, 100%. And, and at the end of the day, is if you're looking to look a certain way, again, for the everyday person, as you know, most of it's going to come from your diet anyway. So it's like if you just kind of get that locked in, you can do any sort of training that you really want. And if that means 3 or 4 kettlebell workouts a week for 30, 40 minutes because that's what you want to do, that's all you got time to do, can't go to the gym and so on and
Mhm.
so forth. It's perfect. You can't beat it.
I also think that it's an underrated quality of working out that people don't talk about enough is fun.
Hmm.
If you enjoy what you're doing, you're more likely to stick to it and do it on a regular basis. I find that sometimes I'm not looking forward to just doing a normal squat, a normal deadlift, a normal bench. But if I'm going to do some snatches with the kettlebell, that's a little bit more enjoyable. I'm more mentally engaged, and then it's easier to look forward to the sessions.
Yeah, I mean that's why I said it the other day. I forget who I was talking to. I was like, I don't use kettlebells because I think they're the greatest thing in the entire world. I just like using them. They also just so happen to be good at certain things. But like that is my whole philosophy. I'm a huge proponent of that. I've always followed that or made that like my North Star for the most part when I was working out. It's like, yeah, I might be doing a certain modality and trying to get really good at that modality, whether it's CrossFit, kettlebells, Olympic weightlifting, jujitsu, or whatever. But at any point I was like, I don't
Mhm,
really feel like doing this anymore. I would just move on to something else.
mhm,
And that's why people are always like, "Oh, did you get this physique by using kettlebells?" I'm like, yes and no. Like that's all I use right now, but I've done everything.
sure.
I've just kept working out hard for 15 years, and I've switched things up a little bit when I feel like it because at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is actually enjoying it because when you enjoy it, you do it more. When you do it more, you try and get better. When you try and get better, you see progress. It's a simple
It's
equation.
interesting that yeah, yeah. I agree. I think it's interesting that the secret to your success was working out hard for 15 years and not any one specific exercise or workout program or meal or, so that's interesting that you and every other successful person in this space physically has that same secret.
Hmm. Yeah, we've all tried a bunch of different stuff, right? Most people in my shoes, let's call it in their 30s, have been trainers for a while and have been working out for an extended period of time, call it 10 plus years. We've all tried a bunch of different stuff. We've all done CrossFit for a little bit. We've all done powerlifting for a little bit, bodybuilding, functional bodybuilding. We've all tried everything, right? We have things
Mhm.
that we tend to gravitate towards, but for the most part, we've done everything. And the only thing that was consistent was whatever we tried, we probably got after it pretty hard and we never stopped.
Mm. One of the other reasons why I got into kettlebell training as well, and maybe you would agree with this, but well, I've been a generalist my whole life. I don't like having weak areas, and to see this entire world of strength and conditioning that I knew nothing about. If I ever had a client who wanted to try it, I wanted to be competent enough to teach them and know what it felt like and know what it looked like. Um, so then get a couple kettlebells, but then I start following you, and you have the Bulgarian bags and the clubs. For anybody who doesn't know what a Bulgarian bag, if you can just imagine like a giant crescent shaped bag, and usually use it like swinging around your whole body in like a 360 kind of motion. You can use it for other exercises, or like when I'm talking about a heavy club, just imagine like a really heavy baseball bat, for lack of better words, a little bit cut off. I just got really interested, and you actually had some really great playlists on YouTube for all the exercises that I wanted to learn. And
Nice.
then also you're really responsive on DM. Which I wanted to say that I appreciate that too. Also, Project Velplex, I'm going to plug your Train Hero
Oh,
program. You
thank
have
you.
a lot of great resources and content out there. No worries. You have a lot of great resources out there, and two things. One, I admired um, how well you demoed everything. That's definitely something I want to learn, at least from um, like a video context. I feel comfortable demoing in person and all that stuff, but just like the way you speak to a camera, like you're talking to a person, I find that's a really awkward thing for people in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then two, yeah, just it was a really concise way to learn all that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm happy to hear you describe it that way because that's always what I'm shooting for and what my goal is with all of that stuff.
Yeah. So I did want to ask you about complexes versus circuits because this is a debate that I see mostly in the unconventional space.
Hmm.
Um, I had a client send me a video yesterday asking if there's any merit to it. And it was Chris Hemsworth with a barbell doing no weight on the bar, 10 bicep curls, 10 overhead extensions, 10 overhead presses, 10 bent over rows, 10 squats. He set it down to 10 landmine rotations, did all these crazy things. And he said, is there value to this? And my response was, there's value to complexes, but maybe not that one. I want you to kind of share your opinion because you're the king of complexes. Um, I want you to share your opinion and I'll finish my thought on that. But why complexes?
So the reason complexes became such a big thing for me actually is when I decided to kind of make this shift into I want to use kettlebells to get strong, and that's going to be my main modality. What I did basically was take exactly the way that I trained when I was training for Olympic weightlifting, like when I was competing in Olympic weightlifting, which I did for about 3.5 years at a pretty high level. So for a very long period of time, that was all I did in the gym, nothing else. So that's always been ingrained pretty heavily in my head. And Olympic weightlifting is actually very similar to kettlebell training. It's you have the a few exercises, squats, clean and presses, and snatches, and that's the majority of your training. So with Olympic weightlifting, that the entire sport is basically that and how heavy can you get those exercises. And then everything else just like is accessory work. It kind of falls into place. It's not a huge focus. So I just kind of took that concept into kettlebells because I felt that they were similar and it made it easy for me to just kind of start to structure things. But complexes are also a big part of Olympic weightlifting. At least they were when I was doing them. So, you would do like three deadlifts, three power cleans, and then three jerks. And you do a couple warm up sets for that, and then you get into your actual clean and jerks. So it was just kind of ingrained to me. And I just started taking that same type of training into the kettlebell stuff, and it just kind of stuck. I liked it. Other people enjoyed it. It was something that was just a little bit more engaging for me. Um, but that's essentially where the concept of using complexes a lot for me came from. And I think it's, like you said, I think complexes have their place. Some of them, Chris Hemsworth is probably 240, absolutely jacked out of his mind, doing bent over rows with an empty bar, not really doing anything. People could probably make a slight
Hmm.
claim to the same thing of me doing bent over rows with a 53-pound kettlebell, whatever. Um, but I think it just
Hmm.
makes things a little bit more enjoyable. What's the difference between doing 5 rows with one weight and then 10 seconds rest, 5 swings, 10 seconds rest, 5 snatches? What's the difference? Physically, probably not that much, but it's just more fun to do it all together,
Hmm.
challenge yourself, and have I feel like complexes give it more of a thing, right? It gives it a little bit more of
Hmm.
like a one rep
Hmm.
max type of feel. Like I did X complex, which is 1, 2, and 3 with this amount of weight. The next time I do it, can I do it with more weight? It just makes it a little bit stickier and makes it a little bit more of a thing. So that's where I think they truly have their place. Is I don't think there's any super secret sciencey formula behind them, but if you just did 3 separate exercises as, let's say, a circuit or a superset, it's just doing 3 exercises as a
Hmm.
circuit. If you do it as a complex, it creates a little bit more of a thing behind it and gives you something to measure, in my opinion, at
Sure.
least.
Yeah, I think it's as good as you allow it to be, and it depends on how you create them. And I find that you specifically create them really intelligently because you're not going to pair a bicep curl with a bent over row with a squat where there may be three totally different weights that you would need to use. You would pick exercises where the weights might be very similar, and then you also, if you know that there's going to be one movement where it's going to be a little bit easier with that weight that you have, and one where it's going to be harder, you're very good about changing the reps per exercise. So you might do uh, four snatches, five cleans, and five or six swings,
Hmm.
like one arm swings and all that stuff, knowing that, the beginning is the harder, the end is the easier part. I find that's another way that you can kind of have an equalizer for the fact that the weight is the same as you just change the reps. So I find you do a very
100%.
good job with that. The
Thank you.
yeah, um sorry, the main reason why I think that they're useful is one, it's fun, like you're saying. I think it's great for skill practice. I think it's great for conditioning, especially if you challenge yourself to do X amount of rounds in a certain amount of time. Um, but then you'll see in the space people who argue for um, circuits, and their idea is it doesn't take that long to set down a bell, go to the next bell at a more appropriate weight for a given exercise, and then do that. Um, do you mess around with circuits yourself, or are you totally in love with complexes?
No, so I'll do both. And like to those the people that say that, I always say like have at it. Go ahead. You know, like if you really want to
Sure.
put it down, like I will say this, I try to get people not to put it down and change weights because most people are gonna like put it down really quick, and then all of a sudden they're
Mm,
resting for 10, 15 seconds. So again,
sure.
more than welcome to go put it down. Have at it. I don't really care that much. Again, that's where I say it's like it becomes more of a thing when you don't put the weight down. If you say I did the PD special complex with X weight, right? You know the next time you go do it, you're gonna try and increase and go to the next bell, as opposed to like, oh, I did the PD special, but okay, last time I did it, I did my rows with the 53, and then I did my swings with the 53, but then I did
Yeah.
my thrusters with the 44. It's like it's just not as fun. It's like, no, I did it with this weight last time. I'm going to do it with this weight that time. So like that's where I think it's helpful. But I will do so like if I'm doing something like if I'm doing a little bit more of a traditional with kettlebells strength day, I'll do snatches just resting on their own, do 5 sets of five on each side, and then I'll move into an accessory superset, which might be, you know, single arm rows. I'll do eight on one side. I'll take 20 to 30 seconds. I'll move into goblet squats for a set of 10, rest 20 to 30 seconds, do a set of push press, rest a little bit, and then go back to the top. So I'll definitely do like slightly more traditional circuits. It's just kind of depending on how I'm structuring the workout for the day. So I do both for sure. Um, but I just like the complexes. They're fun. They're more of a challenge. But
Hmm.
I do both
Um,
very, very evenly, I would say.
sure. Along those lines, if anyone's unaware, you have really great names for your complexes. I think that's one of the things you're known for.
Hmm.
Um, and I, so one, I was going to ask you how you come up with those names, but then you also have a common theme. I'll ask you a follow-up question, but go ahead.
Yeah.
How do you come up with the cool names?
So, so that leads into again more of like a thing, right? I don't know if you've ever done CrossFit, but like CrossFit names their workouts, right? Fran, Grace, Isabel, Murph. It just makes things It makes them stickier, right? What's your Murph time? What's your Fran time? How heavy can you do Grace? Like stuff like that. It just creates a conversation. As opposed to like, hey, how heavy can you do 30 clean and jerks with a barbell? How fast can you do it with 135? It's like, it's just not as fun. So I
Hmm.
actually have to give a little bit of credit to my business coach because he came up with the idea of naming them because I had one complex that like really took off and really grew my following. And I was like, all right, I'm going to call this one the PD special. And then my coach goes, he was a CrossFitter as well back in the day. He goes, why don't you name all of them? It's like, oh, it's just like CrossFit. So I started doing
Hmm.
that. And like, I'm just kind of a Lord of the Rings nerd and like I'm just a nerdy warrior dude. So I was like, I'll name all of them after Greek gods and Lord of the Rings stuff. And that's just kind of how that started. And Leonidas, and I named one after my cat. It's all like just stuff that's personal and cool and funny to me. That's all really. And it just became again, it's a way to make it more fun.
So, two follow-up questions off that. One, do you already have one called the Apollo?
No, but I should. That's one that I missed.
So
Yeah.
the if I Yeah, if you could do that, I would love that. My dog's name is Apollo, so I'll
Oh,
just think of
nice.
him when I see that. And then the other thing is, I saved this question for the very end, but you brought it up. I know you're a big Lord of the Rings person. We're gonna take a quick sidetrack. Who's your favorite Lord of the Rings character and why?
Okay, so it was Legolas when I was growing up because he's badass. But as I got older and appreciated just the story arc and just everything about it, it's Aragorn at this point. Just
Okay.
I gotta give it to him. He's just, he's the king. He's the king. I gotta give him the the ultimate respect of just the story arc is cool. He's just a badass. I also just think in general, Viggo Mortensen just played that role absolutely like it literally couldn't have been better. So I gotta give him the nod nowadays.
I feel like the main answers people give is the ones that you gave, and then maybe Sam and maybe Gimli.
Yeah,
And you have I remember you have the one complex called the Gimli, which is probably my favorite name that you have for any of your complexes.
dude, everybody loves that one. It's such a simple one and it's fun.
Yeah, cool. Um, so you talked about business. You actually just mentioned it. Um, how did you grow your business? You have if anyone isn't aware, I'm going to plug your social media, but you have a very large social media following, and you just mentioned your business coach. If you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah. So really for a long period of time, I wasn't sure if I wanted to like take my business online. Did I want to open up my own space, whatever it was? And I was just kind of like in this lull of not sure what to do. One Instagram post just absolutely blew up and took off, and I gained like 80,000 followers in a month and was like, okay, I got to do something with this now. So kind of like started to make my own programs and sell them and whatever. It's like, yeah, I made like some cash, whatever. And then through through some mutual follower friend just through Instagram, I got connected to my business coach. I signed up with him in August of 2023 and just have been with him since then. He has just two people really, two business coaches, but yeah, they've just been really helpful in teaching me how to actually create a business out of a following as opposed to just kind of winging it and putting it together on
Mhm.
my own and essentially having no idea what I was doing it on my own, to having some sort of structure in place. And that's been monumental for my growth just as a businessman, but also just in general. It's been so helpful for me.
Yeah. Um, so talking about the growth and all that. You were talking about basically just becoming more organized and deliberate, and you've had the attention. It was what would you do with it? I
Hmm.
find you do a good job of that because you have some people on social media where it feels a little bit too business driven with every single post. That even the person themselves feels very businessy. It's buy this 20% off that, all
Hmm.
that. I think you have a good balance of putting out free value. Putting out stuff just for people to take, and if they never buy something from you, they still get value from your page, but then every now and then you throw in a plug, usually at the end of a video and all that stuff. I find you have a really good balance with that because I find that some people are either giving away everything for free, and they're not converting the sales enough, and that's something that people need to find more balance with. Or on the flip side, it feels like every single thing is how you can make money off somebody, and you don't want to be a walking advert in every single post.
Yes, and that is my biggest fear. I've tried very hard to balance the two. And exactly like you said, is I can't just give everything away for free, especially at this point. Like online is my main gig. So I do have to make
Mhm.
money, but I also don't want it to come across as like I'm just begging for it in a sense because I've seen people like that on social
Sure.
media and they're annoying. So finding the balance has been difficult, but I feel like I do a decent job out of it. Where it's like at the end of the day, again,
Mhm.
want to get people on the program, but the overwhelming majority of people who follow me are not on my program. So I still need to give them value and keep them around because everything just rises with everything. Even if someone never buys anything from me, but they watch all of my stuff, they like it, they share it with their friends, and so on and so forth. Like there's still a ton of value that I'm getting from that person, even if it's not monetarily. So it's like just still giving the value to everybody and not just the people who pay you or not only focused on people who pay you. It just makes everything rise together. So it's super valuable to still just be like, here's free stuff. I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah. Um, so what advice would you give to someone starting off in fitness? And then yeah, we'll just start with that. Just in general, a general person, but then I'll ask you about the training side of it.
So fitness in terms of like somebody trying to get in shape like that.
Yeah, someone trying to get in
Hmm.
shape. I was gonna ask you the trainer side afterwards, but yeah, if someone's getting
Okay.
started off into fitness, what's some good advice that you'd give them?
Oh, I feel like I beat this like a dead horse, but just try everything. If you there's no a lot of social media and the fitness world is going to try to convince you that there's like a couple ways to get in shape, and it's to just lift weights in a traditional style fashion and go for runs. And it's just not the case. Just please try a bunch of different stuff. Swing a kettlebell, go to jujitsu, try yoga, Pilates, CrossFit. I don't care what it is. Just try a bunch of stuff because I truly believe that every single human body on the world wants to move and will enjoy movement in some sort of way, but it just might not be what the norm is, or it's going to be different than somebody else. And I think you just have to try a bunch of stuff until you find the thing that you actually enjoy doing. Because, like I said before, when you enjoy it, you do it more often. When you do it more often, you want to get better, or you get better. When you get better, it creates results. Whatever it is. There's people in great shape who do yoga all the time, who do CrossFit all the time, who play tennis all the time, and so on. Um,
Mhm.
so if you can find something that you enjoy doing, that's amazing, especially because as life gets crazy, you have your first kid, your second kid, things go all over the place. If you really, really enjoy something, you tend to not fall off and push it off to the wayside. You know, you tend to do that when you're like kind of making yourself go to this thing. But when life gets in the way and there's something you
Sure.
absolutely love doing, you're probably not going to completely push it off the side. Maybe you just how often you do it and how much, but you're not going to stop doing it. So if you can find that, I think
So
that's super important.
I love that advice because I find that a lot of people have their thing and then they sell to everybody that their thing is the best thing. And this kind of goes back to why you say people should train with kettlebells in the first place. You're not trying to say kettlebells are the best thing at any one thing. They're just a great thing to use.
Hmm.
I tell people, I tell my clients all the time if they want to start a different class, they want to play more sports, do more activities, and all that stuff, it's only going to benefit them. I believe that one of the best things you can do for your body is strength training. I believe that getting in a gym is a great thing to do. But if you never touched a dumbbell or a barbell or kettlebell in your life, and you did a bunch of active things, like you said, like yoga, Pilates, running, biking, hiking, swimming, climbing, there's so many different things that you can do, different sports. You can be in great shape. I guess the real enemy is um, inactivity.
Hmm.
The other thing too is kind of the enemy to people trying all these new things is this obsession with optimal. That
Yeah.
people think that if they're not doing the best thing, it's not worth doing, and if they can't find a way to make that best thing work, that they shouldn't find the next best thing. And you're a good example of someone who's really jacked and really strong and really fit and all that stuff. Using, let's say, the kettlebell is the second or third best thing in every kind of category. If you take that second or third best thing and you get 100% out of it, it's a lot better than 50% of the best thing.
Yeah. And that 50% usually turns into zero because they don't like it, it's not fun, and
Yeah.
they fall off.
Yep. So switching a little bit, what advice would you give to a young coach getting started? I'm guessing it might be along those same lines.
So are we talking online fitness or in-person fitness? Like training. Sorry, I should say training, because two different approaches.
Are you, are you comfortable talking about both?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Sure.
All
Yeah.
right.
Whichever one you want to start with.
Well, first things first, if you were just getting into the fitness industry in general, I think you have to start with in person, no matter what. I don't care how badly you want to go online or how much money you think you're going to make online. You have to go on in person because you have to understand, you have to like earn your reps in a sense, but you also have to understand this space in this world, right? Like you had said earlier that I explain things fairly well. The only reason I do that is because I taught group fitness for 12 freaking years. So like I've taught things so many times. Like I word things a specific way in my posts because I talk to regular people every day and I know what they're struggling with. I teach people how to use kettlebells on a daily basis, so I know what cues work for them. You know, I didn't just go to a certification and then start training people online. Like I know what regular people are struggling with, what works for them, and so on and so forth. So have to start in person no matter what. Now, when you do start in person, I think one of the best ways to start to build a in-person training business is try and teach group fitness because group fitness will get you really good at teaching things pretty quickly. because when there's 14 people in the room, you can't spend 12 minutes with one person teaching them how to do a swing. You have to learn the most important things and how to do things very quickly so you could spend 30 seconds with that person, then move on. But it also just gets you in front of a lot of people. I think it starts to let your personality out. It's, you're getting in front of 10, 12, hopefully 15, 20 people in 1 hour. So people start to like you. Maybe they want to work with you a little bit more, and you can start to take them into some group sessions. I think, or into some one-on-one sessions. That would be my
Mhm.
recommendation is start with group fitness and just get in front of people and see how you can start to maybe pick people into some one-on-one sessions. That would be my recommendation there when it comes to uh, in-person fitness. When it comes to the online world, my advice is start making content. You're gonna suck at it. Get over it. Yeah, there's no everybody sucked when they first started making content, and everybody who is successful now, they started by sucking, they kept making it, they kept sucking, they got over it, and then they eventually got better. You have to start making content because it's the same concept as group fitness. It's the best way to get you in front of a bunch of people at once. And you just have to continue to post consistently all the time, learn from your mistakes, learn from your wins. You have a video that did good, go find out why. You had a video that did bad, trying to figure out why, and go from there. And in everything, especially in the fitness space, is teach people things. You have to teach people, you have to give people things that they can do, whether it's a workout, a cue, an exercise, something that they can do, something that they can take with them. I call it take homeable. They need something out of
Yeah.
your post. It has to be that people are on social media or people follow people for three different reasons. Putting aside like family members or whatever, you follow someone because they're entertaining, they give you information, or they're a celebrity. In the fitness industry, we are only one of them. You can mix in some entertainment and stuff like that, but for the most part, people are following you because they want information from you. You have to give them that all the time.
Hmm. I think that's really great advice, and um, it kind of sparked a thought for me that a lot of fitness coaches will tell their clients to be patient with growth when it comes to their physical changes, and then expect to blow up on social media overnight after a couple posts, or maybe they
They
don't want
are
to get
the
started because they're too embarrassed.
they're the
And you have some
biggest
people that,
hypocrites.
yeah, go
Sorry,
ahead.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. No, 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 totally
Coach
fine.
Coaches
Yeah.
are the biggest hypocrites. I talk to them all the time. And on top of that, they always tell their clients, I'm not losing weight. I'm not losing weight. Why not? Well, I'm not. Have you been tracking your macros? No. Well, then obviously you're losing weight. I'm not growing on social media. Have you actually looked at any of your content and tried to figure out why things aren't doing well? Well, no, I just keep posting. It's the same thing. Coaches are the biggest
Uh-huh.
hypocrites. It's hilarious. I get it. That's just like how life is. But the fitness, the trainer to content creation, like it's a very similar thing of like be patient, start out bad, be a little bit more diligent, figure out why things are or aren't working, and then go from there, as opposed to like just
Mhm.
doing a bunch of random stuff all the time. But yes. So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's 100% true. And
No, no worries. No,
it's
yeah,
the same thing.
I agree with you. I think it's interesting that part of the reason why I think that happens is because coaches spend so much time specializing in something that they almost get comfortable and don't want to start over at being a beginner in a certain area all over again. I find
Hmm.
a lot of people in different fields will do that as well. I was a soccer player from 9 until 21, and then I started jujitsu at 27. So I had a couple years where I wasn't doing any sports or anything like that. And jujitsu is like the most different thing in the world to me in terms of movement. Like, it just felt so new. But the thing that helped me I've only done it for a year so far up to this point. The thing that helped me to stick with it was just accepting that I wasn't going to be very good and being comfortable with that, and just focusing on the small wins consistently. And I find that that kind of mentality is necessary for people to be successful. If you expect to start on top of the mountain, you're not going to climb very far. If you understand you're going to start at the bottom of the mountain and you're okay with the long journey and all that stuff, then yeah, you might not get this overnight success or something like that, but you stick with it long enough, you're going to grow quite a bit.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I've always said, and I actually was talking about this recently, of like I think one of the things that has helped me grow, and it's similar story to like you said with jujitsu, is like I'm really okay being fucking terrible at something, and like just accepting that in the beginning stages of it, because like you have to, one, you have to, but it's also like that's kind of the
Mhm,
most fun. You know, like I look back at
mhm,
my creating content from 2 years ago and it's like, it was such a fun little game to play. You know, I had to figure out like, is
mhm,
this going to do well? What should I do? What's my hook going to be? Like, I kind of have that a lot more like down now. So I just like make content, but it's fun trying to figure things out. Like when you're a white belt in jujitsu, it's kind of fun to be like a little spazzy and know you're terrible, but you're like, I'm just going to try this anyway and see if it works. It's like, and 90% of the time it doesn't, but like one time it does. And you're like, oh, okay, let's build off of that. Like that's fun for me, I think at least. And unfortunately, like you said, a lot of
mhm,
people don't, they get really good at something for 10, 12 years in the fitness industry. And then it's like, all right, you have to drop down to zero and be terrible at something.
mhm,
They don't like it, especially because it
mhm.
has to do with what they do. Meaning like if you're great,
Sure.
if you're a great trainer going over to try jujitsu, those are completely different things. But creating content's kind of in the middle where it's like I'm still talking about everything I'm really good at. It's like, yeah, but you don't know how to talk about it and spread it to the masses in a good way yet. And I think that's where they get a lot of frustration. Is very, very smart people and good coaches don't know how to portray that message and turn it into content as opposed to just information, and they battle with that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Um, this is a fun question for me, but what are any major lessons you've learned along this journey of being a trainer and also in the online space? And is there anything that you had a big change of mind on recently?
So what is something I changed my mind on? I think that the first thing that's coming to my mind is I was pretty, for a period of time, especially as I entered again, like I said, I was always a trainer or coach. So it's like I got, I was basically an hour employee. Client 6 to 7, 7 to 8, 8 to 9, 9 to 10. And then once 10 hit, I was like, I'm done. Like I can chill, do my thing, and then I have my clients later or whatever. And as I entered the entrepreneurial space, it was kind of like, oh, you can just work all the time and do like there's always something to do. So I got into this period of time where it's like if I wasn't doing something productive, I felt very guilty. And I thought that because you can work all the time, you should. And I've gotten into the space of like the days it's not really there and you're not that motivated, especially when it comes to content creation or filming, it's like,
Mhm.
you can grind through a workout and just deal with it. It's free. You really can't grind through like writer's block, or if you're trying to record something and it's just not
Yeah.
working, it's hard to grind through that because it ends up just being bad. So I've gotten good at on days it's not good, it's not there. I don't push through anymore. And I'm just okay with like,
Mhm.
okay, this wasn't the best work day ever. That's okay. So I think I don't know if it's changing my mind, but I think I've evolved and gotten to the point of like, if you have a bad work day, like it's just a bad work day. That's okay. Like give your
Mhm.
20%, get a couple things done and move on. And then the next day when you're feeling better, get all the stuff you have to get done.
I
I'd
like
say
that.
that.
I find that, yeah, there's a lot of trainer burnout because people try to work all the time and then they don't spend enough time recovering and then they don't enjoy their work or they don't spend time trying new things, learning, growing, all that. And I can't remember the quote exactly. It may be an Abraham Lincoln quote, but I think it says, if I have to chop trees for 4 hours, I'm going to spend 2 hours sharpening the axe.
Hmm.
As opposed to just having like adult axe and, cutting nothing and all that. So I find that that's something that I've personally tried to be intentional about is that, um, maybe a 40-hour work week is a good stop. If I try to go way over that, then maybe I don't enjoy my work anymore. And maybe I don't, the quality of the work suffers and then everything else kind of falls apart after that. So
Yeah.
that kind of balance between quality and quantity, I think is an important thing. And I like that you mentioned that because maybe there are people that do feel guilty, especially in the entrepreneurial space, that if they're not working as hard as possible or trying to make as much money as possible or whatever, that they're not successful or providing value. So I like that you said that. Uh, along those lines, oh, this is my favorite question I ask all my guests. What feels like a win in your job? What feels like scoring a touchdown?
I really enjoy, um, obviously I would prefer it come from like a message from somebody on my program, right? Because that's like a double win. But just in general, somebody being like, "Hey, I discovered kettlebell 6 months ago. They reinvigorated my desire to work out. I've gotten this result, that result, whatever it is." I like when people say they've seen what I do or done my program, and it kind of got them excited to work out again. Because I think that's kind of my whole thing is there is a way to enjoy it. Whatever way it is, you just got to find it, but there is a way. So I really like getting those messages of somebody, and of course, like I said, the results come. It's they lost weight, they can play with their kids better, they gained 10 pounds of muscle, whatever it is. But I think when it's like the 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 prefix of it or the first part of it is like I discovered this thing, in my case it's kettlebells, love what you're doing. I really have started to like working out again. And that I think that's just awesome because I do think everybody can like working out and they should. So I love hearing that.
Yeah, I like that. That's generally on the same line of thinking that I have is that sometimes people will say, I hit this goal, weight, or I hit this, I hit this PR or something like that. But it's someone will tell me that they decided to do additional exercise just because they wanted to and they enjoyed
Mhm.
it. Or this is one thing that it made me really happy happened recently. I was out of town for a week, and some of my clients I've learned will not work out if I'm not there, even
Yeah.
if I send them workouts to do
Yeah.
while I'm not there. And some of them sent me videos of them doing the workout and having a good time and all that. And it just made me happy to see that my goal as a trainer is that if you never work with me ever again, you're in a better place than when I started training you, not just physically, but also just your commitment to exercise, the enjoyment factor, and your knowledge.
Hmm.
I find that's the kind of added bonus, not just you said you wanted to lose 10 pounds, you lost 10 pounds, hooray. It's also you like working out now and you know how to do it better because of the things that I've been able to teach. So I do like that. Um, Kind of going in a different direction. Do you have any major pet peeves in the industry today?
Oh, in the industry today, God, I have a
Yeah.
lot of them. The word optimal makes the word optimal makes my skin crawl. It's just I'm just sick of hearing it. Um, I'm and optimal is not the worst one. I just like I'm just sick of hearing the word. I don't care if people shit on kettlebells. I know why everybody makes fun, like makes a post on bodybuilding stupid. Kettlebells are dumb. Pilates is dumb. It's all engagement. I get it. I don't fault anybody for like playing the game. I do it too. Um, I my pet peeve is when people put um definite or absolutes on something,
Yeah.
right? And whether it's intentional or they're just not paying attention to the wording that they use. So I word my stuff very, very appropriately or very purposely, right? It's the you can't build muscle using kettlebells. It's like, well, that's a stupid statement. You're literally wrong. You can. If you want to say they're not the most optimal for building muscle, like I agree with you, right? But to say things and from like, well-educated people that are like, you can't do this, or you have to do this, or this is the way you need to do something. That stuff kind of bothers me because there's nuance to everything. And again, I understand that nuance doesn't win on social media, but I do think that you can still get your point across and still reach a ton of people with putting like the caveats in there or just wording things the right way. So I'd say that's my biggest pet peeve is when, people don't word things with the same intentions that they actually mean. Like if Mike Israetel made a post and was like, if he says kettlebells are stupid and you shouldn't use them, I don't care. If he says you can't build muscle using them, then he's just wrong, right?
Yeah.
If he says they're not the most optimal way to build muscle, then he's right. I'm okay with that. But all four of those statements, people can think mean the same thing, but they don't.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And then I also find that maybe the biggest beef with kettlebells is the bodybuilding industry, like side of Instagram and fitness and all that stuff. I don't know why they became like arch enemies with each other. Um,
Because
and
we
there's an
we
account. I'm
promote
not sure.
our we promote our product.
Yeah, go ahead.
We promote our product because we say our thing fixes the other one, which is fine. I get
Yeah,
it. And everybody needs an enemy. You need something to say, don't do that, come do my thing. I get it.
yeah, yeah. Well, so there's this account, I don't know if you follow him, his name is, Bells in Bodybuilding, and I just feel
Yep.
like he's caught in the middle because 'cause he'll do all of it, you know? I'm like, that's
Yeah.
totally awesome too.
Yeah, it is.
So, yeah. And then so I'm just gonna add on to that. I 100% agree with the optimal thing. To me, it's the new functional in terms of like a
Yeah.
buzzword that just drives me crazy. Um, but then the new one that's coming up and it drives me crazy is fascia has started taking over. People talking about fascial training.
I've been
Yeah,
seeing that more. I don't even know what it is, and I don't even care. Like,
yeah.
I don't even know. But I
Or
have been seeing it
even
pop up a
worse
little
than
bit.
that, yeah. Yeah, so even worse than that is people are starting to move on from fascial training to lymphatic training. And I'm just like, what are we even talking about anymore? You know, you just have people. Someone said, I think, do you follow Zach Tallender?
Yeah.
So he made a post about this woman who said that you can drain the water from your abs to look even skinnier and more shredded if you do like lymphatic hops. And all she did was pogos for like a minute. And she's talking about how like, what is this crazy?
Yeah.
So, what are some positive trends you're noticing in the fitness industry?
I think I have seen a lot more people, I think, on the contrary to what I said, I have been seeing people add a little nuance to some of the things they're saying, right? So again, we'll use the kettlebells as an example. People will shit on them, and then they'll get a bunch of comments saying like kettlebells are good, blah blah blah, and then like someone like Mike Isertel will like he'll make a video shitting on kettlebells, which again is fine, but then he'll be like, but if you really like using them, then fine, go ahead. Like, oh, okay, like that's all I
Hmm.
needed from you. You know, you can make fun of them all you want. Just don't tell me
Yeah.
that they're wrong. Just tell me that you think I'm
Hmm.
dumb for using them. I don't care. That's your opinion, right? So I have been seeing a little bit more nuance kind of squeaked in there, and I've been seeing like top tier people do different things, I guess. Like just be a little bit more like I guess cross training would be the
Yeah.
fitness word, but I have been seeing people do that, and I've been seeing more. I don't know if it's good or bad because I just don't like beef on Instagram. I've been seeing more well respected top of the line people like call out and like stitch just absurd thing, kind of like what Zach was saying, right? Like I've seen some more of that
Hmm.
where it's like I feel like some of these people like the Hubermans, the Lane Nortons, and just kind of like using them as examples, they're feeling like a responsibility to be like, hold on, guys, like this video is bullshit. I need to tell you that it is. So I think I've been seeing
Hmm.
some more of that now.
I,
That opens a can of worms
yeah.
because there's a lot of people who aren't as
Yeah.
credible as those people doing it and just kind of like doing it for clickbait. But I have been seeing some pretty respectable names doing that to some posts and being like, guys, this isn't the way.
I think the sweet spot there, and it's not something I want to get involved in, but the sweet spot for people who do those kind of reaction videos is it's one thing to shit on somebody who has a different style, but they still have some kind of reasoning to their logic, and then other people that are complete grifters and scam artists.
Yes.
So if you just make stuff up to sell and you're getting called out for that, I'm a big fan of that. But if you're just going in on somebody because they like something that's different than what you like, then I just find that's petty and it's unnecessary. There's a big enough space in training. There's enough clients out there for every trainer, you know. So I don't like putting someone else down to kind of climb up on their shoulders. But if it's someone who's, you know, stealing from people and you're going to get called out on it, I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. That's kind of what my brain was trying to say, and you articulated it in a much better way.
Um, so that's all my questions. Oh, sorry. No, I have one last one. Do you have
Mhm.
any final pieces of advice that you want to pass? It could be to anybody. It could be about anything. Just any final piece of advice.
Something that I guess we already touched on, but it applies to everything, whether you're going to start kettlebells, creating content business, you're going to suck at it in the beginning, deal with it. Everybody does. Get over the hump. That's your story, is I used to suck at this and now I'm a lot better at it. It happens with
Yeah.
everything. Practice
Yeah. I
and
love that.
repetition.
Yeah. I love that. So I wanted to thank you, for your time. I want you to plug yourself as well, but right before that, I just want to thank you because if someone doesn't know, you have about a half a million followers, and there's some people that might have like 100 followers, and there's some people that have 10,000 followers and won't respond to DMs. They might think they're too big or something like that. And you still take time to respond to people. So I think that speaks to your character. I really appreciate you've helped me a lot with getting into unconventional training just from you sent voice messages. Like people don't do that. 2 minute voice messages describing big things about business, training, all that stuff. So I'm very grateful to you for that. I hope that I can just, pay it forward. So I wanted to give you your flowers
Thank
here,
you.
just so if, and everybody should follow you. But if they are to follow you, where should they follow you? What
Uh,
programs are you selling? All that stuff.
well, first off, thank you. I appreciate that. I try and just be a normal person on Instagram. So thank you for saying that.
Mhm.
Everything is just at Pat Damiano. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn. I guess technically it's all just Pat Damiano. And then yeah, if you Google Project Bellplex or click in any of the links in my bio on any of those for the most part, you should be able to find it, and that'll be my program. You'll get build functional strength and conditioning and mobility, 40 minutes a day, 4 times a week is all you need, and you can do it from home. That's the sales pitch. Just need a few kettlebells in your body
Cool.
weight.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah. Cool. Thank you very, very much.
Hey man, I appreciate it. This is a good conversation.